Hey, good evening, Cameron.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited, and I have to say, you were actually really excited when I said you were coming on the show, and it was so nice to speak to you via WhatsApp and email. You responded very quickly, and for a professional athlete who has, I'm sure, lots of things in preparation for the upcoming season, I thought it was really nice, and I think that really is a good show of character. Thank you so much.
Well, a pleasure, but I got to admit, I got a soft spot for your name. I mean, it's about as close to my name as possible, as Wurf. Wolfi, yeah, Wolfi, yeah.
Very
People
good.
call me Wurfy, so I thought this guy has to be a good fella. So
Okay,
yeah, made sure I didn't miss the opportunity to be on your show. Very
thanks so
excited.
much. I really enjoy doing all the research and speaking then to people, and your story is just amazing. I thought it was just fantastic what you achieved, and I prepared a little list just for everyone listening because maybe they don't know really everything I researched, and we prepared as well a little clip. So I just want to go through it. Rowing world champion in under 23 in 2003. You participated in the Olympics in rowing in 2004. Between age of 13 to 22, you were very strong in rowing. Then you transitioned into cycling for many years, going with Team Cannondale and in different teams. And then you transitioned from there into triathlon, very successful, obviously setting the fastest bike split ever in Ironman Hawaii, winning Ironman Italy in 2019 in 7:46:54. And now back.
Oh, and don't forget, I got the run course record. That's the thing I'm most proud of at Ironman Italy. I actually broke the run course record. It's my first. People sort of said that I'm only out there trying to break bike splits. I was like, no, I'm here to win the race. And so it was quite satisfying because it was particularly the Germans that are very critical of me, of course, because they kind of control the sport. And Andy Booker and Andreas Dreitz had won that event the last couple of years. Okay. And they are meant to be big Uber bikers. So it was nice to not only demolish their record at the course, but also smash their run course records as well. So, yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Unbelievable. We have a little clip just to kind of get in the mood, and I would ask Will to maybe play the clip.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Will is always doing a great job. Thank you very much, Will, for doing this. And I always see this puts a big smile on people's face when we go through the career a little bit, showing a few of the steps you have been through. Yeah, amazing. How does this all start? How did you become such a machine in all the sports? Who introduced you to rowing or any kind of sports?
Yeah, well, I mean, just before, it's funny, looking back at that stuff and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty incredible the journey I'm on. I don't really ever look back, I feel like I've been so fortunate. So just, I guess the whole triathlon part, I mean, that really never was meant to happen. It was, I quit cycling. I wanted to work on Wall Street. So that's why I moved to the US. I wanted to work in finance. I had my economics and finance degree, and I still had a contract to race the bike, but Cannondale said, it's better for you to have a job when you're looking for a job than just be unemployed. So they offered for me to be a brand ambassador for them there in the US. And so I had a couple of years or a year, just to sort of, I guess, pooch around and figure out what I wanted to do. And yeah, it was at the end of that time I'd done a couple of triathlons just because for fun. It's pretty hard to quit sport when you've been doing it that level for so long. And I just really enjoyed it. And I happened to be home in Australia. I'd found a place I wanted to work. So it was 2016 into 17. I was riding my bike quite a bit still. I was training a lot with Richie Port. He lives in Tasmania, so we train all the time. That was the first year he won Tour Down Under. And while he was there, Tim Kerrison ran into him and said, "Oh, you look really fit." So Richie said, "Yeah, Wurf's been home." And Tim, and I kept in touch because he was a rowing coach back when I was rowing. So when I actually won the Worlds in under 23s, he was coaching another crew that also won Worlds. And then one of his athletes actually rowed with me at the Olympics. And Tim wanted to coach that crew, but politics and whatever, they gave it to an institute coach, and he missed out. So he went and worked his swimming. And then, of course, from swimming, he went to British swimming, and then he went to Team Sky. So that's how the paths disappeared. So then when we got back in Rome, we kept in touch. And Chris Froome was in Australia and started 2017. He was training on the Gold Coast and alone at Tim Kerrison's house. And so when Tim heard from Richie that I was just in Tassie hanging out, doing not much, and I was still relatively fit, he asked me to go and train with Chris. And so off I went to the Gold Coast for a couple of weeks, sort of figuring that'd be my last sort of sporting, what a way to go out, training with the Tour champ and, to just be a part of that, learn a bit about him and all of that. And we had an incredible camp. And at the end of it, both Chris and Tim said, "Well, mate, you can't quit sport. You can't give up. I mean, you've still got something to offer. You don't want to come back to cycling. What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, you know what? I did a couple of Ironmans in my little couple of years away, and I loved it. And Tim and they both thought, that's probably, you seem to love training. It's probably the sport that would really, benefit from just someone that loves exercising, which is what I just love doing." And so we started this journey, and obviously it's progressed. And at that point, we talked about me racing on the team. But of course, at that point, I needed to learn how to run and swim. So we're worried about racing and crashing and hurting myself or, something like that and stepping me back. And as I got better at Ironman, the whole racing on the team thing really got put on the back burner through the fear of the risk. But now, as I said, with my running coming along and my swimming progressing, it was a great opportunity to potentially go back and do some racing at World Tour level to get that, just push that edge a bit more on the bike again. That's why we're here. It's I shouldn't be even in sport. It's just I pinch myself every day. So, looking at that clip, is just another reminder. I'm just like, wow, what a journey. But to me personally, it feels like I got this second, third, fourth, fifth, I don't even know what number chance it is in sport. And I just want to take it with both hands and grow it with both hands. And they say, squeeze like a tube of toothpaste. The more you squeeze it, the more you're going to get out of it. So at the moment, I'm just trying to get everything I possibly can out of my body and the rest of my sporting career. It's amazing.
But where did it start? Was your family sporty? Where did you develop? I think you really love training. I think this makes you as well so good. You really enjoyed it. But how did it all start?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on a tiny island. You draw a triangle from Sydney to Brisbane. You go out into the ocean, Lord Howe Island. It's about 14K long and half a kilometre wide. There's 300 people that live there, 30 kids at the school. And I went, I was there from when I was about 5 or 6 till I was 12. But my grandparents lived there. And so I used to go there all the time for holidays as well. But there you ride your bike everywhere or you walk. You don't wear shoes. You're in the water, you're climbing trees. I mean, I was working as a 7-year-old collecting palm seeds. I used to climb the palm trees, collect the Kentia palms. You probably see a lot of them in Dubai, actually, in hotels and things. Mm-hmm. They're quite an exotic sort of tree. Big industry was the main industry on Lord Howe Island. And being little and quite fearless, the more experienced guys, the older guys, they'd pick out all the little trees, all the really skinny ones at the top that they couldn't climb, and they'd let me climb them because, for the regeneration, it's best to get the seeds off them. So I remember at 7 years old, I was making, a couple of $1,000s a year climbing palm trees, which at that age, you feel like you're just rolling in the money. fortunately I saved it, and my parents let me save it. And so, yeah, growing up there, I guess you're into everything. You know, you ride to school, you ride home, then you ride to the beach, and then you go for a swim or you go for a surf, and then you race home again. And, you know, you're just charging around all the time. And, but when the elite side of the dreams, the aspirations, and, you know, all through that period of my life, I love sport in general. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be a MotoGP rider. I wanted to drive Formula One. I wanted to win the Masters in golf. I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer. All this. There was no. It didn't matter what the sport. I just wanted to be good at sport. I just wanted to be the best at everything. And but it was when I moved back to Tasmania for high school, and there was a guy from Tassie. He won gold in '92 in rowing, incidentally, in the double scull and Lake Banyoles, so pretty close to me here in Andorra, down in Girona. And that was a huge thing. And I'd followed that even from Lord Howe Island, like being in Tasmania. I, you know, followed the Olympics, of course, and knew all about that. And he quit that and was getting into abalone diving. And my dad had pioneered that industry. So my dad was, you know, I guess the man of abalone diving. And as successful people tend to do, they find the best, you know. And so Stephen all of a sudden was at our house, you know, quite often, meeting with Dad or having dinner with us. And, you know, they'd be looking at maps, he'd be showing him where he should dive and what he does with this. And really, I guess, mentoring him would be the word. And for me, that was such an eye-opener, because you got this icon, you know, a guy that was like Olympic gold medalists to me are like the greatest, you know, sportsman on the planet. And as a kid, you're sitting there watching your dad, you know, teaching him. And I was just like, you know, what it taught me was, wow, he is just like the rest of us. You know, he learns, he works hard, and succeeds. And so at that point, I'd never rowed in my life, but I wanted to go to the Olympics in rowing. So that's what started that journey. But I never really, to be honest, actually liked rowing. It was just I wanted to go to the Olympics in rowing. And I guess that, you know, the results leading up to the Olympics or whatever I had to do, I was, well, as I said, and, you know, smashed the world championships. But once I got to the Olympics, I kind of lost my way a bit. We really fell apart. We had a terrible regatta, and yeah, it was such a huge step up, and I wasn't ready for that. And then I tried to obviously go into Beijing. We did the Worlds a couple more years. We were actually fourth in 2006, but by that point, I'd realised that I wasn't into the sport at all. And it was time to probably think about a career. Yeah, I used to, when we were in Italy training, I used to see Cadel Evans and Ivan Basso riding around on their bikes, and I thought, wow, that looks like a good job. And so, yeah, I went home and said, I'm not going to row anymore. I got on the bike, and a few years later, I was Ivan Basso's teammate. So pretty incredible, you know, the way it all just sort of evolved, you know, it just sort of rolled into another. Yeah.
This sounds like a fairy tale, really. You make it sound so easy, and you say, I was a little boy, I was sitting with someone who won the gold medal. And then I think, okay, I should go to the Olympics. And it's just amazing. I think it really shows. And what I really love about the show is speaking to people and say, listen, dream the dream, work for it as hard as you can. And you're maybe able to achieve it, yeah. And at least you're trying. But this is just unreal, yeah. What you have achieved.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, they say it's impossible to imagine something that isn't possible, and but I really think that I've been so fortunate my whole career. I've been around the best of the best all the time, you know, and I even am now. And even with my running, you know, I was at Red Bull in 2017 after Kona, and we were talking about the race and what had happened, and in LA, and they said, oh, what do you guys got planned for the running? And at that point, you know, Tim was sort of, I mean, I came from zero background, so any running at that point was a progression, you know. And I said, well, we haven't really thought about that, you know. We've got, obviously, but he was an Olympic swimming physiologist, so he has friends, you know, the world's best swimming coaches all over the world that he can call anytime, wherever we are, and say, you know, can Cameron come and jump in with you and learn, you know, help him learn to swim? And that's been, so fortunate. That's meant that I've been able to develop quite quickly in swimming. But the running was one thing that we were scratching our heads a bit with. And yeah, they just said, oh, well, we know these guys at Nike. And next thing, I'm on the phone with Brett Kirby and Brad Wilkins, who were the ones behind the Breaking 2 project, the initial one with Kipchoge, and
Yes.
said, well, wow, what a great project for us. We're always looking for a great project. And obviously, took me under their wing, and yeah, just been working, working that closely in that last year, Kipchoge's major objectives sort of were lined up perfectly with mine. I did Ironman Australia at the end of May, or beginning of May, sorry, which was about the same date or a week apart from the London Marathon. And then the breaking, when he did the 159 project, that was the same weekend as Kona. And so what they basically did was we did the exact same key workouts. He obviously did a lot of extra running and obviously different paces and whatever, but as far as the structure goes, they were identical. And I would obviously run and swim, in there as well. Sorry, ride and swim. And I remember it was about 2 or 3 weeks before Ironman Italy, and we both had a 2-hour run. So it would have been about 4 weeks before Kona, 5 weeks. And we had a 2-hour run, and Brett sent me a screenshot after. He said, great job. Up here, I did a rolling run. I did about 30K, averaged about 4-minute kilometer pace, which we felt if I could do that at this sort of, altitude and terrain, then that was pretty much where I'd run a marathon, which it turned out it was 2:45. And Elliot, he ran 40.2 kilometers in the same time, so you think you're going well, you feel like you're going great, and he's gone and run 10K further in the same session. And you just scratch your head thinking, yes. Whoa. So I never get an opportunity right now to ever become complacent. Today I got up, I went running this morning, did just 12K on the treadmill, and then met Pavel Sivakov for a ride. We did 5 hours. Well, we did 4.5. I stopped at the swimming pool. I swam for an hour, and then I rode home. And it's seems like pretty, if I stop and think, wow, I can't believe I just did that today. But, you're just surrounded by all these incredible champions that, it just reminds me, look, this ain't easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And you should be doing stuff that you would think is not possible because you're trying to do something that hasn't been done before. You want to be the best, you've got to do something that no one's done. And so it's, I've surrounded myself with pretty incredible, team, I guess, which, obviously encompasses Ineos and everyone there, obviously particularly Tim Kerrison, and then of course the guys at Nike who, have just been so incredible to me with the running. So, really fortunate.
I heard this once that somebody said you should surround yourself with 5 inspirational people and that will just lift you up. And it looks like you have 50 people around you who are your inspiration. And that's an outstanding story. You raced Tim Reed in your first triathlon. Was this on the island?
That was on Lord Howe Island. Yeah, so Tim Reed, obviously a world champion at 70.3 distance in 2016. Yes. He and I grew up. We went to school. Of those 30 kids, 2 of us, nearly 5% of the school was Tim Reed and I, 7%. And we used to. When we did race our first triathlon together, and but it was pretty funny. We swam, stroke for stroke, and then on the bike, I actually had a bit of a gap on him, and my bike, my gear, my chain came off. Something happened anyway. I was rolling along, and he was coming up behind me, and I looked over and I saw it. I was passing one of the other hotels, and everyone has bikes there, so there's bikes everywhere, and so I just dropped my bike, grabbed someone else's, jumped back on him, and we started the run together, but he ran away from me. He's a better runner than me now, and he was definitely a better runner than me back then. So I'll never forget it though. We'll both never forget it. But since then I've had the wood on him. I've been able to beat him you know, both times in Kona actually 3 times now in Kona we've raced. And then obviously last year in Australia, Ironman Australia, we had a bit more of a battle, which was great. We go back a long way. So it's pretty, pretty amazing for us to both be, I guess, the two at the top of the sport in Australia now, you know, coming from such a small place. And, we're obviously very close friends, and, there's obviously nothing I wouldn't do for him, except when the race starts.
And the race is on.
In fact, he wanted some special pair of Nikes for the race, and you can't, they're hard to get, and obviously I've got access to them, and so I actually took some back for him to Ironman Australia, and when he was starting to run me down that last lap, I was thinking, I should not have done that. But fortunately I held on, so it was okay.
You train as well with Richie Port, and I heard there was a Starbucks Frappuccino story as a special drink for a 300-kilometer ride. So that's one of the secrets.
Yeah. So in Australia, so that was his birthday. We met really early one morning, and we sort of planned a loop. I had about 300K in mind. He sort of, I guess, he never told me how far he thought we'd go, but we sort of mapped out a 200K loop, and then got to that point, we may as well go there. And then I sort of knew that if we went this way, it'd at least be 360. And then when I thought if we went that far, then we may as well do the extra bit and do 400, which is what we ended up doing. But around halfway, when you've been eating and, you've been on the bike for 6 hours or so, you start getting a bit sick of fuel. And Richie just, I don't know how he read about it, or he pretended maybe he'd been doing it for years. He didn't tell me. He said, these iced coffees. And in Australia, they weren't Starbucks ones there. They were Farmers Union or Icebreaker. I don't know, but Australia just do the best, iced milk drinks, or iced chocolates, or honeycomb, or any of those flavors. They just taste better than anywhere else in the world. And so that's all we had. They got a lot of sugar in them, electrolytes and fat. And we were just buzzing for the second 200K, no dramas. And so then when I had to do my first Ironman, I was like, to put that in perspective, 2 weeks before, I had no intention of ever doing an Ironman. I was at an event for Cannondale. There was a speaker. His name was, what was his name? Oh, it'll come to me. Anyway, he had cerebral palsy, and he'd done Kona a couple of years before. And he broke 27 bones in his feet. Bonner Paddock was his name. And he broke 27 bones in his feet. And he still had 2 healing 2 years later. And I sat there, and I'd always wanted to do an Ironman. One day I thought, that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. And I was like, wow, like literally anyone does these things. That's like, his story's incredible, but you know of stories of all just sorts of random, you see the tattoos on people. And I said to Cannondale, the marketing people, I said, are you guys doing any activation or anything at a race, an Ironman at any time that I could jump in and do? And they said, yeah, we're actually doing one in 2 weeks. But don't be stupid, Cameron. Like, train for it. Try and do it properly. I was like, don't be stupid. I just want to do one. So anyway, they let me do it. And so, I had no idea what to do. So I only had that sort of experience from a long, long day. And I thought it could have taken me 12 hours. I had no idea. 14 hours. I didn't know how long I'd take. I'd never run that far. And anyway, so I just put a Frappuccino, the Starbucks, the caramel Frappuccino. I put one in my swim transition bag. So I got out of the water, sat down, drank it. I saw people like rushing to get all dressed. I'm there sitting there having a drink. And then on the bike, I rode through pretty much the entire field by one of the male pros. So you start very way back as the age group. So I rode through all the women, almost caught the front of the race, and got to T2. And again, sat down, and I was having a drink. The cameras there thinking, what is this guy doing? And then I even had another one in my special needs bag on the run, halfway through the run. And I ended up coming, I think I was top 10 overall. I think I was 8th or 9th. And obviously I was the first age grouper. And then that was when I qualified for Kona, and I was like, wow, yeah, absolutely, I'm going. I mean, that's another bucket list thing. I never dreamed of that opportunity. So did that, and but as fate would have it, I don't know if Bonner jinxed me or whatever, but I broke my foot 2 weeks later. So I rocked up at Kona with a broken foot. So yeah, I really got to not feel what he goes through, but at least I kind of know what it's like to do Kona with a broken foot.
And then obviously the famous fastest bike split in 409, 320 watts for the event. But you race sometimes without the power meter. Is this correct?
Well, it's always on the bike.
Okay.
In 2017, it was on there. It didn't work. They tried to sync it up. They wanted to have it so they could have the coverage so it could go on. And I don't know what happened, but anyway, they managed to make sure that I didn't have power. I don't know if they could read it, but I didn't have power. So I had no idea in 2017 what was going on. That was why I stayed with Lionel and Kinlay for so long, because I was like, I don't really have much of a reference apart from heart rate here. So stay with them as long as I can. And then, when I felt like, the pace was dropping off, that was when I pushed on and obviously got off the bike. Well, it was when I set the record first. But then, the second year, I certainly don't look at power. I don't use power as a barometer. I'm more concerned about how fast I go. I mean, it doesn't matter if you get to the end and say, oh, I averaged 350 watts, but I rode 4.5 hours. Well, it doesn't really help you. So I have always have an idea of what average speed I think is possible on the course. I mean, it's pretty easy to get that sort of information these days, and keep an eye on my heart rate and sort of know what I can do there. And, if that's starting to get a bit out of control, then I have a look at power and see what that's saying. And obviously if I'm way above what I know I'm capable of doing, I always have the average there. So I kind of know roughly what I've been doing over the course of the duration. Then I'll adjust things. But it's amazing that I don't look at it, and it's inadvertently, no matter what the course is, no matter what time of year, within 5 to 10 watts all the time, 310, 320, 300, somewhere around there. It's amazingly consistent for the fact that I don't take any notice until I download it later. I tell you what, there was one in 2018. That was the best bike split I've ever done. Ironman Zurich, and Ronnie Schildnick in the press thing, he'd said one of them asked me, they said, what do you think you'll ride on the bike here? And I said, oh, well, I think there's about the same amount of climbing as Kona. So, I think around 4:15, I think I'd ridden 4:12 or whatever in Kona. And Ronnie goes, he had the bike record at that point. He said, if you break 4:20, I give you my watch or my car or something, like he said, as if you could do that. Anyway, I rode 4:14. I think I averaged 326 or nearly 330 watts. But I remember you know how you press the stop button at the end, and then save the ride, because sometimes I've lost the data where the battery's gone flat or whatever, and you've tried to turn it on and whatever, it disappears. And anyway, so I started getting the habit of stopping it and saving it before I racked the bike. And it said I needed 4 days rest. and I still had to run a marathon. Anyway, but the craziest part was that was the first day that I ever broke 3 hours for the marathon. I ran a 2:58. Yeah. So anyway, I don't care if I lose the data. I lose the data. I definitely don't stop it and save it, because I don't want to see what it tells me, what rest I need.
So did you get his watch, or did you get his car, or what did he give you at the end?
He was really embarrassed. He got smashed in the race for starters, and he'd won that thing 10 times. A bit of the king of, and was always the king on the bike. That's the funny thing about these guys. They carry on. The ones that were Uber bikers, I think what infuriates them most about me is the fact that I couldn't care less about the bike split. I mean, I'm trying to win the race. You don't stick around in sport for as long as me for doing little egotistical stunts like that. So I don't need to be doing sport. I mean, I'd be happily working on Wall Street, as I said. Or now, I mean, a huge amount of opportunities I get, all the time, who I meet around the world and different things. So, I'm doing this now because I want to be the best in the sport. So, yeah. So I think that annoys. I'm not trying to kill the Uber biker thing, but it's the triathlon. You're trying to be the best swim bike runner on the planet. And the winner should be the guy that's the best at all of them, not, So I'm very paranoid about making a huge effort to improve my swimming and running to prove that I'm, good at everything.
Okay. I heard that the first race this year with Ineos was the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Race. Yeah. And after the finish, you decided to put on your running shoes and run 20, or I think it ended up being almost 30 kilometers.
Yeah, I got lost. I made a wrong turn, and I was coming up to this sign, and I was thinking I should say 5 and said 15. But as fate would have it, on that corner there was a gas station. So I went in and had one of Richie's trusty iced milks, and and a Coke, I think, as well. Quite a combination, a Coke and a milk. It was a stinking hot day. Obviously, I just raced my first World Tour race in 6 years, and so I was pretty cooked. But that was part of the deal. I'm on the team. Yeah, back to the team part, I guess. Sorry to jump around, but I spoke to Dave Brailsford. I went to the team camp, which is the whole team, in December in Mallorca, which I'd never been to before. Normally, I'm just at camps with the guys because I wasn't officially a part of the team. Although, for now, a few years, the team have done, a guy there, Carsten Jefferson, who's in charge of all their partnerships, has done all my contracts, and that's why everything is lined up with the team. It's not like I'm hidden or anything, but I just haven't been around everyone. So I was at the main camp, and I guess I get along quite well with everyone, and had an opportunity to sit down with Dave and have a chat about Kona and everything else. And and we actually discussed the possibility of racing. And I said, well, I train with the guys all the time. I feel like I'm, at a reasonable level. I said, I think of one thing of value I feel like I could potentially be to the team is that I'm ready to go anytime. If you're a guy short, I feel like I can do a better job than going without a guy. I don't think I'm going to be the first one dropped. I think I can at least get bottles right in the wind, be a support or whatever. And if there's a spot, that you want there for me, I'd love to do it. And, but obviously Kona is still my number one goal at the end of the year. And he said that, that sounds great. You're always with the guys, you get along well with them. Often Tim will say you're going, Cameron's going really, really well. It'd be great if we could take him to a race. So, let's give that a crack. And anyway, the first race was, the team was full at that point. So it was more talking about next year. We were going to planning on doing that. And then Kirienka retired. And so straight away, they just put me on the team. And then it was like, well, we got to see where he's at straight away. So the first race that was available was Cadell's. It was 6 days away. I was in LA, got all the paperwork done, flew me to Australia. And obviously I was on the start line. But the deal was that after every race with the team, provided there wasn't any travel problems or whatever. And Tim Kerrison even said, we'll even adjust your travel schedule if needed. You have to do a minimum half marathon. So if it's like if it's a 1 day race, you do it after the race. Or if it's a stage race, okay, you can wait till the end of the stage race. But minimum half marathon. So that was the deal with Cadell's, is get to the finish and then put your shoes on and run back to the hotel. And and then I did the same in Algarve after the time trial. I wasn't high on GC, so I was finished pretty early on. So I had time to go for a run and get back and still watch Rowan, the finish, and the other guys, and got my half marathon in there. So
how was it to be back? How was it to be back on the first race? And obviously it was quite an intense race. So there was a lot of kind of action going on right from the beginning. I think you were trying to break the race apart, but how different is the World Tour to training for triathlon, and how was it to be back? And obviously you needed to show that you're really worthy for Ineos, and how did you feel?
Oh, yeah, exactly. You hit the hammer on the head there. Far out. It's the best team in the world, and as much as I had thought about it, the previous years being around the guys thinking that'd be great, when it actually happens, you turn up at a race And it was interesting. You said you had Andre Greipel on last week, and you know, he was probably the first person I ran into at the hotel. And when I walked in, and he said, "Oh, it's so great to have you back. I follow Kona every year. It's so good to see." He said, "I know I'm German, but it's great to see you getting closer and putting pressure on those guys." And you know, that sort of really helped break the ice, to be honest. That one of my peers who I always looked up with, always had a great relationship with him when we were racing, when I was racing before, Adam Hansen, one of his, you know, longtime teammates, great friends with. Yeah, so, you know, that was pretty cool. And then, but then being in the dining room and everything and seeing everyone, so you could tell everyone was looking at you. It's like, Wurf's back. What the hell is Wurf doing back? You know, because no one leaves the World Tour and then 5 years later just walks back in with the biggest team in the world. But in my mind, I mean, I didn't leave because I wasn't good enough. I wanted to leave the sport. I mean, so it wasn't that I never thought, oh, I'm not good enough to race the World Tour. I just thought, well, look, I want to go and do something else with the productive years of my life. I didn't feel like the effort I was putting into cycling was, I was getting what I feel like I should have been getting, as far as I was missing something. I mean, I was working my ass off, but I just didn't know how to race, or maybe it was the wrong team environment, which probably it was a combination of both. But time away gives you a chance to look at things subjectively. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've got a much better idea of what's going on. So I was so nervous the start of that race, and we knew there'd be crosswinds. Mm-hmm. And so I lined up. I was pushing the commissaire's car with the back wheel. I was so close. I was right on his bumper. And as soon as the flag dropped, I just stayed parked right on the front. And then we knew that after about 2K, there was a left-hand corner and there was going to be wind. And there's a wonderful photo, and Andre's in it. And we come around that corner, and I'm on the front, on the right, and Luke Rowe's right behind me, who's the king of crosswinds. Yeah. Greipel's on my left. And Luke's like, righto, Wurfy, let's go. And first thing I was like, I'd forgotten about how to ride an echelon. I'd forgotten which side of the road. So I kind of took a punt and guessed. Fortunately got it right, and did a massive first turn. And I noticed no one rolled over me. And apparently from what I was told, it was quite a strong pull, and it ripped the bunch, apart straight away. And then guys started throwing through. And you can always tell how good a move is. One thing I remember is by the quality of the riders that come through after you. So to see Andre come through, all of my teammates, Mads Pedersen, the world champion, Daryl Impey, I was like, oh, we're on here, and yeah, blew into, a bunch of groups. And so it ended up coming back together, but obviously it made the race extremely hard from the start, which was our goal because we didn't have a sprinter. And so once it finally did settle down after about 50K or so and everyone kind of got back, one guy that got spat out was Elia Viviani and all of his teammates pretty much. And he and I were teammates. And I did a lot of races with him. And a lot of his wins, or most, all these big wins, and his first win. And, I was there for most of his races when we were at Liquigas. And so he came up to me. He's like, "Oh, Wurf, I was in the back and I knew it was you on the front. I was thinking, fucking Wurf, why did he come back?" And that really broke the ice and made me feel like, you know what, I deserve to be here. I'm not a joke. I'm not a joker. I'm good enough to race at this level, and my peers respect me, and my teammates obviously respect me. We ended up having a great day that day. We did blow the race apart again in the crosswinds. Sivakov was second, and Dylan Van Baar was fifth. So that was a great way to get things started. It really worked out really well. So, but yeah, certainly it wasn't lost on me, the magnitude of what was going on. And I wanted to make sure that I let everyone know that, I deserve my spot here. I'm not, there's no free kicks.
Just your spot with the training. Obviously, you were with Chris Froome, and I think he was training very, very hard. And you were just capable of following him. And I think that must have earned you already a lot of respect that they even kind of consider you, because obviously there's only 30 riders in a team.
Yeah.
And just to be selected, to be on the kind of waiting list and then getting into the team, this is unheard of. I've never heard a story like that.
Yeah, no, neither have I. But for some reason in my mind, it was never a case of if, but when it would happen, and also it was like the right timing. As I said, we talked about it a couple of years ago, but then it was, look, I need to learn to run and swim. I don't need to improve my cycling at the moment. So, and then as that improved, we sort of really stopped even talking about it, because it's like, look, Cameron's running's going great, swimming's going great. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. It just felt like the right time. But I really suffered those first couple of races. I mean, it's one thing to train. So I've spent now 5 years, and the last 3 training obviously at a very high level on the bike, with these guys at times. I really only train hard on the bike when I'm with them. So it's kind of a bit of a booster on the bike, and then you go away, kind of try and maintain it, go back into the camp environment, big booster. When I'm not with the team, I'm focusing really on the others. And so it's always controlled, if that makes sense, and also in Ironman, since the start, I've really been, I guess, reasonably dominant on the bike, particularly sector, putting myself in a position. So I'm really racing my own kind of race. And so getting back in the world to a Peloton where there's guys attacking and you got to follow and surging and moving, and you can't just go, oh, look, no, I'm over my power, or I'm feeling a bit of fatigue, I've got to go a bit easier here, because I'm constantly thinking in an Ironman, you're balancing a range of things. You want to go fast, but you got to know you got to run, you got to eat, so it's always a bit of a trade-off. And having those thoughts in a bike race don't help you, because you've got to go as fast as the guy at the front. And that really hurt, the first few, in Cadell's, that I was burning like there's no tomorrow after 10K. I mean, I had no idea how I was going to make it to 12K, let alone 15K, let alone 20K, let alone to the finish circuits, And it just was a real eye-opener to realize, I guess, how specific my engine had become to what I was doing in Ironman, which is, I guess, the reason I'm one of the better guys in the sport compared to another elite sport. And that's how it should be. I mean, it should be like that. So having said that, we feel that if now we can add that element back on top of, it should make me better all around, not just on the bike, but the one thing we found when I was the week after the first 2 races I did was my running was much better. I was running quicker. I felt like I was doing it easier, because it kind of opened me up again. It taught me how to really suffer, which is something that I really haven't done for a number of years, because you're constantly on that, oh, look, I've got to swim this afternoon. Oh, I've got to run this afternoon. Oh, I've got to ride tomorrow, Whereas now I'm just like, I'll get through today's session, worry about tomorrow when I wake up, like it's very different mind space I'm in. And the racing is, just clearly crystallized all that for me. Probably an area where I can improve a lot mentally. And so,
How different is Ineos and the whole Ineos experience from the team camp, from the support you're getting? Obviously, we hear the stories about their own pillows and chefs and the whole setup. How professional compared to other teams you have been racing before? How professional is Ineos?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously that's, hard to, compared to that era, I mean, just worlds apart, because back then, Ineos had a chef and a couple of other teams started having them. We even had them for a couple of just the big races, whereas Ineos will do it every race, every camp, the physios, masseurs, the specialists, chiropractors, all of that for your treatment. But the biggest thing that I find, is the difference is the passion of every single person in the staff. And Dave Brailsford, obviously people say what they like about that guy. He is an incredible leader, and he works his ass off. And that means that from him, all the way, and you don't want to use the word down, but all the way through the team, across every single person, that work ethic is quite infectious. And from an athlete's perspective, and I guess I really feel this because I wasn't even racing on the road. I was going off to Ironmans, but generally, when I go to a race, I've generally been with the team, or at least a few of the guys in the lead up to my Ironman. And I don't want to go and suck. Everyone works so hard that you just feel a real accountability of, wow, they're putting in, I'm going to put in. But it's not even just on race day, it's training. You wake up in the morning and it's all there and it's done for you. You feel a real desire, and responsibility is not the right, responsibility for sure, but that's not the right word because it's your job. But you feel a real desire to go out every day and work your ass off, and because everyone on the team is doing that. And yeah, so let's face it, riders leave the team, they take knowledge, staff leave the team, they take knowledge. There's most teams have the same resources, if not more, but you cannot replace that passion and that work ethic of everyone. And when you've got that collective work ethic, it just makes a champion team, which I think is clearly evident when you look at how many guys have won the Tour de France in the last 8 years. 4 different guys. It's and this year, who knows? Maybe Pavel Sivakov might win. Like a 5th guy. So, and it's that's what I love about it. I read a great book, From Good to Great, and it's really about that. It's about you have people that are incredible leaders, but once they're done, nothing sort of happens, or good workers within an organization. But then, once they go, things sort of fall off. But from good to great, like a good team to a great team, means that sort of no matter who you put in there will thrive and prosper. And I feel like on Ineos, they're very good. They don't tend to sign massive champions. They create them, and they're not even sometimes the names you'd think, but they fit with the system. They work hard and I guess appreciate that work ethic of the team, and go out there on race day and commit and put in, and training as well every day. And so I think that's the big difference with Ineos.
Fantastic. Do you row sometimes still for training, or is rowing off the list?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I want to. I'd love to. My wife, actually, she's from the east coast of the US, in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, and there's lives on a beautiful lake, about 100k of shoreline, and just looks like one of the massive lakes we used to row in Tassie. And every time I'm there, I wish I had a rowing boat. So I will get one at some point. I've just ordered a rowing machine. I've still got one in my house in Tasmania, so I jump on that when I'm home in Tassie, which isn't that much these days. But when I'm in LA and I'm at the gym, I'll often jump on the rowing machine just to warm up, or just for fun, just to make sure I can still feel it, because I love it. And truth be told, I'm not ruling out that I won't end up back at rowing at some point. How could I? I've gone through all the sports, and here I am now back racing my bike. It'd be naive for me to say that I haven't thought about going back to rowing at some point.
Maybe Bradley Wiggins and you in a Scully.
Well, Tim Kerrison's talked about Rowan Dennis and I in the double. He thinks it would be a great combination. So, that's a little sort of project, that may or may not ever transpire, but it's fun to think about it anyway.
If it happens, people have heard it here first. That's good.
Exactly, true. I probably haven't said it anywhere else. So,
Okay. Do you feel that what you learned in rowing, obviously about the technique, and you have to be very stable on the board, and you have to, if you ride or if you row with 2 or 4 people, you have to keep the same technique all the time. Do you feel that transferred into your triathlon, into your time trialing and all these things?
No. What I think where it's helpful, I guess, is swimming, is understanding the concept of movement through the water. There's no doubt there's something there which has given me a chance to learn quickly. I guess in terms of the level I can swim at already, compared to guys that have swum their whole lives. So obviously having that feel for the water has definitely contributed. But people always ask which sport. I always have to say that rowing is is the foundation for everything for me, because it was the first thing I did. And I certainly reference that with suffering, pain. Like, often yesterday I was doing some threshold work and I was into the last 3 minutes, and I actually said to myself, I said, come on, Wurfy, you've done the last K of a rowing race feeling way worse than this. Lots and lots of times, just grit your teeth, and all of a sudden it didn't feel so bad. And so there's certainly those moments. But, in rowing, as you say, you got to be in crews. And I think being in a team sport, that's where the learning how to deal with people and get the most out of people, I think, is a skill and I think that's probably potentially where Ineos is. You think about, if you look at who I've spent the most time with over the past few years and their performances in that time, I'm certainly not saying that I'm the reason, but I feel like I've been a part of it, and I think that could be just the conversations we have in training. I mean, Pavel Sivakov, for example, the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time with him. It's been wonderful to see. He lives a couple hundred meters down the road, so we train together, when we're both here every day. And but of course, Geraint, I started spending a lot of time with him at the start of 2018, and it's been pretty incredible since. And Froome in 2017, and that was obviously when he finally won the Tour and the Giro, the Vuelta back to back, and then won the Giro. So yeah, I think those skills that I learnt then in rowing, of getting the most out of different personalities, because at the end of the day, you've all got the same goal. You want to go as fast as possible. I think that team aspect is probably the biggest help in cycling, being able to be there for your mates and get the most out of them. Just say the right thing to them at the right time. Because in rowing, obviously, you live and die by your crew. So, you want everyone firing on all cylinders. Yeah, but from a work ethic perspective, you're up 5 o'clock in the morning, and there's a bunch of mates, bunch of your crew that are there doing the same thing. And if you sleep in, they're all waiting for you. I mean, you just can't do it. It's not an option. It's not an option to say, oh, look, I'm just not going to come to training today. You're letting down all these people. So being aware of stuff like that, is just such great things to learn so early on. And I think now also, today I trained 3 times. That's pretty, I trained 3 times yesterday. Tomorrow I got to train 3 times again. When you come from rowing, it's not such a big deal, because you get up in the morning, you go rowing. Yeah, you might go home and have a sleep, but then you'll go to the gym, maybe do weights, and then you'll probably go and row again, or you'll get on the rowing machine in the afternoon, or both. I mean, you're training, you might be training for 6 hours straight like a cyclist would, but you're training for 6 hours a day, but broken up day after day, So I think even that side of it prepared me well for what I'm doing, what I did in cycling, but probably more so now, where I literally the whole day is dedicated to sport, recovery, and fueling the dragon, making sure there's fuel in the tank. That's the toughest part when you got multiple sessions is getting food in to keep you going. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of rowing, and certainly encourage any kid that says they're keen to get into it. I think it's a great sport.
Do you feel, obviously, when cyclists always hang around with cyclists and you have a certain idea how many hours a day you can train or not, and even triathletes maybe have a certain mindset, and you have seen now 3 different sports that you learn from rowing, the level of intensity, the level of duration for training, and that you will bring something obviously to Ineos which was not there before. And obviously when your colleagues see you running after a stage race or after a tour, they must think you're crazy.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I wouldn't, for sure. I mean, Tim Kerrison is always thinking outside the square. I mean, when he came into Sky the first year, he had no idea about cycling. I mean, obviously he come from a rowing background initially, incredibly successful as a swimming physiologist, and poached, from the Olympic swimming, from British swimming to Team Sky, and spent the first year in the car just learning the sport, had no idea. So he's certainly someone that loves to, tap into different different sports and different ideals. I mean, he went and visited the UFC when he was in America with us.
Okay.
I mean, he's just fascinated by different ideas, and for sure. It was funny, I'm sure Froome wouldn't mind me saying this, but after that stage in the Giro where he blew the race to pieces, the solo attack, I said, you know, because everyone was saying, oh, he's going to be tired tomorrow. I was thinking, I said to Fal, my wife, were watching it on TV, and I'd obviously spent a lot of time with him leading up and keep in touch. I said, he looks great. You know, he's not overextending. Yeah, he's done a big attack. He's got himself comfortable. He's just done a good, steady effort. And I said, sent a message. I said, mate, you know, great effort. You actually look great. You know, you look nice and fresh. Probably also trying to convince him that, you know, he looked good. So he didn't start thinking he was tired. And he wrote back, he said, yeah, mate, no, it was just like an Ironman effort. You know, try to stay around 300 watts, try not to go over 400 watts too often, and yeah, keep it nice and smooth. And I was like, damn, what a response. Like, he referenced what, you know, we've talked about with regarding what I do in an Ironman, with how he'd ridden a stage and won the Giro in such spectacular fashion. So there's no doubt that, you know, what I do and spending time with the guys, you know, obviously it has an impact. And certainly when they're training, you know, particularly in LA, with G, I've noticed, you know, the first year, you know, the first few days it'd be, you know, we'd meet up for the rides. And then when he realized that he was meeting me after swimming, he'd start getting on the bike an hour and a half early and do an extra hour. And then when he knew I was running, he'd, oh, well, I'll come to your place and grab a coffee with you, and so you can get a bit of caffeine in you for your run, and then I'll go off and do another little loop and then go home, you know. And so little things like that, and you know, Pavel as well, I've noticed around here, you know. When today, like, I went off and swam, and of course he went and did an extra bit, you know. And so and I guess that's where Tim Kerrison, he doesn't even have to say anything. I mean, he doesn't say anything, he just says, yeah, train with Cameron. and I wouldn't say it just takes care of it. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just doing what I need to do. And I guess you're trying to just lead by example, I guess. And that's always the best way. And yeah. So I think it's certainly had a positive impact, or an A impact. You know, I'm sure they might have got the same result doing it some other way, but this is the way we've done it. So yeah.
And I think it's never been done until it's done, yeah. Until you have put a new level for training, or how much can you train, how intense can you train, and everybody thinks, okay, that's as fast as you can go. When I thought it was interesting when they said, obviously the 4-minute mark was broken in running for the mile, and everybody, so that's impossible. Nobody can run as fast. And then it was broken, and suddenly after a couple of days later, lots of people, or weeks later, a lot of people ran as fast, because in their mind it was not possible. And once they see it is possible to run after a race and run another 30 kilometers, they think, okay, then we can't be so tired. If he's not so tired, how can we not? I think you set an example maybe for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess in Ironman terms, it's funny, you know, 8 hours was like the big barrier.
Yes.
And then I came out in Italy, and I think what's been great about me being in the sport, because I came from like last, you know, when I first did a race as a pro, I was a long way behind because I couldn't run. And so I've gradually, you know, passed this guy and passed that guy and passed that guy and you know, it's been a very gradual trajectory, which is what it should be, because otherwise you start asking questions, or people ask questions about what's going on. But when I went and ran 7:45 or 7:46, all of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, there was a guy from Germany, friends, Lochte, I think was his name. He went 7:45 in Barcelona. Joe Skipper then went to 7:45 in Florida. And then Alistair Brownlee went 7:45 in Busselton. And it just became the new time, you know. Whereas I guess when Jan was doing that stuff, everyone's like, whoa, it's Jan. Oh, wow, no one could ever, you know, it's Jan. Which he is. I mean, he obviously showed in Kona last year. He's still, when he needs to lift, he's a great champion, and he takes it to that next level. But I guess when he was doing those crazy things, no one ever thought, oh, well, we can do that. They're just like, oh, that's Jan. But yet when I go and do it, all of a sudden everyone feels like they can. And which is annoying for me, because it'd be nice if I got to stay, if they all thought breaking 8 hours was good. But I'm actually really proud of that, because I feel like the sport, you know, has progressed a lot since I've been a part of it. And it's a great, I mean, we're racing now. We are racing these things. You know, we are not out there just sort of floating along. It's on, you know, and well, as much as you can handle for that period of time anyway. And it's really exciting. It's an exciting time in the sport. So, yeah, you're right. It's all up here. And you know, I'm confident I'm going to get faster. And if I get faster, I'm sure a lot of the guys will get faster. So
we have to stay with you. Yeah. Otherwise, they get dropped. Yes, very good.
Yeah.
And we have obviously some big community in Dubai. We have Try Dubai, which is one of the most successful clubs and one of the really big clubs here. We have a My Try Dubai club where they have all the juniors as well training. So do you have some tips for people or what's your best tip for swimming when it comes to triathlon?
Yeah, I mean, people always ask, the crazy thing, I've only been doing the sport a few years. I don't really feel like I know. But the big thing with the swim is that it really sets up your day. I mean, of course, it's the first thing. Being as competent a swimmer, if you're not a good swimmer, take the effort to learn to swim. Because I guarantee that if you just improve quite a lot in the swim, you're going to improve quite a lot on the bike, because you're going to get out of the water, you're going to feel good, you're going to feel better, and you'll get on the bike, you'll ride better. I say, if you're struggling in that swim, you're going to struggle all day. You're not going to get on top of it. It's just a horrible way to start the day. I mean, I've had bad swims and you're behind. You got to, even in Kona last year, I was sort of at the wrong end of the pack and never got to the front. Made it really hard day mentally compared to the previous year, where I'd had a great swim at the front of the main pack and then been able to get to the front really quickly and then push on. Yeah. So, it can change. That dynamic changes so much in the swim. So firstly, if you're not, and then if you are, as far as a swimming tip, just make sure you can swim the distance. I mean, just go and swim. If it's an Ironman, make sure you can swim 4K, comfortably. Put on your wetsuit and, once a week or once every couple of weeks in, the 5 or 6 couple of months leading up to the race, just swim 4K. You don't worry about the time or the speed or anything, but just do it, even if it's in a pool. I mean, I actually did, before Italy last year, almost swimming in a 25-meter pool. And I swam 46 minutes, and that's quite fast. I mean, with a wetsuit, I'm quite a fast swimmer with the best. Yet when I take a wetsuit off, it's obviously quite a bit harder too. So, that's where it highlights the really good swimmers from the good swimmers. And so that's really my key. I mean, as far as efforts go, everyone does the same stuff, 400, 300, 200, 100 times 2 or 3, is a pretty simple heart rate set. Your hundreds, 10 hundreds, 20 hundreds, couple of sets of 10 hundreds. I mean, that's all pretty, you read that in any book and everyone basically will do the same sort of stuff. But as far as specific stuff for a race, firstly, become a competent swimmer. And then next, make sure you can just swim the distance comfortably. So, because that, just getting through that swim well, just changes the whole event for you.
What do you think for cycling? Do you think a lot of people are too concerned about the data and power instead of feeling the speed of the bike and understanding the course and where to pick up speed? Or what's your tip for cycling?
Yeah, I mean, the feel for speed is a big thing. I mean, you really need to develop that from a lot of time on the bike. And I guess to really maximize that, you have to have quite a big capacity. You have to be able to go quite hard at times and then know when to back it off and to really understand it. I mean, I think one thing that I learned early on was we tried to spend a lot of time on the time trial bike, on the triathlon bike, back in 2017. And I just went backwards real quick. I just really lost, you compromised in power, you're just not in a stronger position. And I got weaker and, didn't feel good. So we just sort of scrapped that, because I'd always been reasonably good at just getting on the time trial bike and being able to produce power and go quite quick. So I do, often 90% of my training on the road bike and just do enough on the time trial bike to be comfortable, so that it's not a shock to the system on race day. The only thing that gets sore is my neck because you're not used to doing that, but I can deal with that the day after the race. That's not a problem. But I find that one interesting with triathlete. tend to spend. I mean, sometimes you've only got one bike, so you don't have a choice. But if you can, you know, I'd be on the most comfortable bike possible for a majority of your work, and then maybe just a key session or a couple of key sessions a week on your actual time trial bike in the position, because yeah, it's just not as strong as being in a comfortable normal position, even if it's a mountain bike or something else, just something different to that time trial position.
And I know you like your clothing. You think this is a big part, and the helmet as well. You're working with Castelli and with cars. So I think this is as well a tip to don't think too much about the frame and the wheels. It's really the body which creates a lot of resistance.
Yeah, I mean, if you have $1,000 to spend, I'd spend $700 on the suit and not really worry too much about, and then the helmet and then the bike. Yeah, I guess personally, I mean, in 2017, it was still sort of in the early stages. And at that point, we didn't know if I'd really go in line with the team completely or not. So I actually tested a lot of different things, a lot of different stuff. In fact, I used the Roka suit in Kona in 2017. Yeah, because we did obviously extensive. I did extensive testing even in competition, and arrived at the partners that I have now, which I feel are the best. And I was talking last night to my wife, actually. We're talking about, you know, changing, you know, sponsors. Not that I'm going to, but I was a friend of mine who's looking at changing a lot of things. I was thinking, gosh, I just couldn't. It takes so long to develop that relationship with those partners. I mean, to the point now with Castelli, I know they're at the cutting edge, and they'll say, look, Cameron, we've got a new suit. You test it, let us know. I just say, just give it to me. You know, I just put it on, and they look at me like, you're not going to do it. I was like, no, that's your job. You know, you guys know what you're doing, and they put a huge amount of time and effort and research into, you know, not only fast. I mean, I said a big thing. It's one thing to have a fast suit on the bike, but you got to run in it. And so it's got to be comfortable. And I think as far as the suits go, Castelli now has done an incredible job. You know, in Italy last year, I swam with the suit up under my wetsuit. So, you know, the flexibility in the shoulders. Obviously, the bike, you know, I smashed the bike record there by a lot. And then was able to run, you know, extremely comfortably in the marathon. So, you know, the suit is great for a triathlon suit. And, yeah, so they've been fantastic. And then Kask, obviously, you know, I mean, you only got to look at, yeah, okay, they sponsor Ineos, but Ineos is like me. They can choose anyone they want, really. But you look at other national teams and all different team individuals when they get an option, you know, like Rowan Dennis last year at Worlds, he had the choice to, you know, because he walked out on his team to use whatever he wanted. He had a Kask helmet on. So, you know, that stuff sort of speaks for itself, I guess. So, yeah, it's same with Nike with the shoes. That's obviously pretty easy one. You know, they're the best. But, yeah, I don't even get involved in product development or anything like that really now, because I just have 100% faith in my partners that, you know, they want me to be successful as much as I want to be successful. So, but I think that, you know, racing at the highest level helps them develop and test and find out and refine. And I think that's where you've always got to look, you know, what the best are using. Because I'll tell you this now, you know, no amount of money in the world for a big champion will have them use something that isn't any good. You know, they're going to use what's the best. And you know, this team, yeah, as I said, it's a pretty good place to start with what Ineos use.
We're working with Castelli and Casta for over many years, and it's really nice to meet them in Italy and see the passion they have and how much time they really spend in the wind tunnel to develop the fastest suits and stuff. It's really, really nice to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. The factory there. And it's so, like, I mean, the Italians are wonderful. I mean, as you know, I rode with Liquigas and lived in Italy for a long time. And I just love that family. You know, like Fausto Pinarello, like I go to the Pinarello factory and, you know, we take the dog and we're wandering around and everyone's just so excited to see you. I mean, you see these brands all over the world, yet, you know, it all comes from, like, yeah, it really feels like a little family when you're at their headquarters. And then also, you know, how excited they are when you succeed. You know, I mean, it was the coolest thing ever to win Ironman Italy last year, because I picked up the new bike, I think on the Thursday. drove down to Cervia. Like we flew across from Barcelona, you know, on the Wednesday night. We went into the factory Thursday, had the new bike with the 3D bars and everything. Drove down to Cervia. You know, they came down to visit me, a couple of the staff, on the Friday before the race, and then obviously Saturday won. And then Monday we were flying out for Kona, but I had to go and pick up another road bike to take with me, and just the excitement on everyone's face, you know, when you walked into the factory, you know, after winning. It was just, yeah, because that's what they do it for, you know. I mean, you're there to you know, show how good the product is, you know, help sell the stuff. I mean, that's obviously part of your job. But you know, they just are genuinely very passionate about what they do, and that's what gives me belief that, you know, I wouldn't even care if they gave me the worst bike in the world. You know, I know it's not. Like I 100% trust them that they're going to do everything they possibly can in their power to give you the best equipment. And obviously, same with Castelli and same with Cass. So, yeah, incredible partners and great people.
What do you think for running? What is I think you have improved quite a lot. You're running over the last year. So how did this come along, or what did you change in terms of your running style? How did you improve so much?
I was really fortunate, as I said, with the Nike thing. You know, I was at Red Bull a few years ago, and we got involved with those guys. But the thing was, that also coincided with that new shoe being developed. And so I learnt to run basically with that new shoe. You know, I mean, that was basically the first running shoes that I had. And so I've developed like that forward lean, and I guess they've molded my technique around how to get the most out of that particular shoe. And that's certainly been a huge part of it, you know, without a doubt. In the first part, I needed a lot of support in the shoe. I needed, you know, quite a solid inner sole to keep my foot upright. And then we did that for about a year. And then after a year, they said, right, Cameron, it's time to get rid of that. You need to learn to basically run with nothing, because you get more performance from the shoe. And so, because I was thinking, why do all these high performance shoes have basically no support? And it's, yeah, their feet and everything are so strong, and their ankles and everything, that they don't need it. Even if you've got a high arch, like you can deal with it. And so over time, I was actually at Nike with the soles last May, and I was walking along and it was squeaking, and they're like, can you hear that? And I was like, yeah. And so they pulled them out and squeaking stopped, and they said they gave me the lesson on it. And so, yeah, that was the big change, I guess, from May through till, you know, September, when I went to Italy. And now obviously on to Kona. And now I obviously don't need any support in the shoe either. So, but as far as the way improving goes, I think consistency. So I haven't been injured once. I mean, nothing, like absolutely nothing. No injuries at all for a couple of years. Well, since I've been running, you know, with these guys, and, you know, and also understanding what we're trying to achieve here. I mean, I'm not trying to race ITU. I'm not trying to run a 30-minute 10K. So, you know, learning to run, you know, a lot of the running, well, all the running is basically on tired legs, because, you know, there's not a lot of point running when you're fresh, because you're never going to be like that in the race. And also, when you do run super fast, or try to run super fast, that's when you increase the risk of injury. But even if you look at the fastest Ironman run, you know, like a 240, I mean, that's a 350-ish kilometer average. Yeah. So even if you're running 330, that is a lot faster. Yet that can actually feel pretty comfortable for intervals or efforts or whatever. So that's, I guess, been a big thing, is knowing that you've got these incredibly bright minds sort of telling you to not over push it. It's better to do better volume and more consistent volume at a lower intensity than try and push the envelope and end up injured and not be able to run for 2 weeks, or be too tired to run properly tomorrow. So I think that's the key. Is I've needed to do a lot of running back to back weeks to get to a point where it becomes just rudimentary. You know, you can just dial up that pace and just sort of grind it out. And now I've, you know, started running pretty consistently around that, you know, 250 to mid 240s range. And ideally that'll, you know, I think just over time, by continuing to run more, that's obviously going to keep coming down. because, that's just what happens when you do more of something. So, so that's the big thing with running, I think. Identifying what you're actually trying to do, particularly in Ironman and racing, and looking at the speed of that, and realizing that you don't need to go out and run a 4-minute mile every day to be a better runner for a triathlon.
Yeah, interesting. We know now nutrition and recovery. We know Frappuccino. I know you have a heart for Milky Way.
Yeah, Mars Bar, Milky Way, depending on what country I'm in. Yeah, okay. I had them on the bike every now and then. Yeah, I used to have a lot of gels, like I'd have like 12 gels, and it sort of just got a bit much. And so I started splitting at 6 gels and then something else, and so it was either Cliff Blocks or a Mars Bar or 2 Mars Bars or Milky Ways or those things, like some sort of solid on the bike. I mean, let's face it, you're sort of just topping it up anyway. So, and the bike's really the last sort of chance to, I guess, probably get down some solids. So, I find it good to have something like that. It's obviously caramel and chocolate and melts, and it's actually quite easy to digest and gives you that good fix. So, it works.
You recently have become your wife, and you became parents, and you have a son now.
Yeah.
6 weeks, 7 weeks, or how?
Yeah, he's 8 weeks old now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did this change your mindset? Did you feel any different? Is this a change for you, or how is it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it gives you a different perspective every day of, you got to look after a human. So when you're doing your job, you want to make sure you do it properly. I mean, I got an incredible wife, and she loves being a mother, and she's just really embraced it, and he's been really, really good. He sleeps well, he eats a lot, and we've been really blessed with that. I guess this period, I guess with Ironman, you're home. If I was just doing Ironman, I'd be home all the time anyway. But if I'd been racing with the team, it could have been a bit different. I might have been away and missing bits and pieces. So it's obviously been quite a gift to be home, here and see everything day by day, see him change. And it's a wonderful thing. But I certainly can't use him as an excuse for not training properly or anything else. He sleeps well. He doesn't mind if I'm not home all day, and still gives me a hug when I get home at night. So it's great. Everyone says it's the greatest thing, and you obviously don't know until you got one. But it's certainly. I think it'll give me a little bit of an extra edge once we get back to competition. That's for sure. Yeah.
If you think back into your career, and you would think now, if you could give yourself a tip starting around 2003, and you say, okay, Cameron, this is what you should do, or this is what you should change, what you learned today, and what tip would you give yourself when you started your career?
Believe in your process. I mean, I've always been really good at training, and physiologically, even with liquid gas, that was largely based on a lab test. I mean, I think I broke Fabian Cancellara's, aerobic power record at the Mappe Center, so on a lab bike, I'm quite strong. And so obviously at home, and I work hard and obviously eat well and do all that for I think literally that entire first part of my career rowing, and even, and cycling. I'd go to a race and then get told to do something different. I've always eaten well and done things like that, stretching and whatever. And then I'd go there and they'd tell you to have pasta for breakfast. I mean, that's something I would never do. Yet you have a bad day and then they tell you, you don't know what you're doing. You should have been having pasta for breakfast at home, and then you'll try that. It just doesn't work for you in training, and then you turn up to the next race and you go crap, and it just sort of spirals. As I guess getting back to I always felt like I always had the work ethic. I've always worked hard, yet particularly in cycling, I just wasn't performing at the level that I believed I could, and I guess others believed I could. I mean, I used to be able to. I mean, I broke Ivan Basso's climbing records all around Varese, and in theory, I should have been able to be quite good. And I wasn't. So now I watched a documentary on Carl Lewis, certainly one of my heroes, and he was talking about LA Olympics in '84 and how much pressure he was under to win those 3 gold medals, and it was obviously huge. And what he did was he rented a massive house in West Hollywood, so quite close to the Coliseum, and he had all his family and friends and the people he liked to have around him at that house. And so what he would do is he'd go to training and go back to the house. He'd sleep in the village at night, but he'd go in after dinner, after all that, just go back to the village, get in his bed, go to sleep. He didn't want to be around all the hype and all of this and all of that and the media and everything. And then he'd go to the stadium, he'd warm up, he'd race, back to the house, And then it wasn't until he won the relay that he sort of stopped and realized, wow, here it is. I've got my 3rd gold medal, and that was amazing. And so I guess I noticed, with Ironman, all of a sudden I was very consistent in my performance, but a lot of it was because, Fallon she's actually studying a master's in holistic nutrition, so she loves cooking and loves all that. So I eat very well at home now, even better. And we've been at a lot of team camps together. I mean, she's come to a lot of them. And so she's seen how the team chefs cook. She's helped them cook at times. And so then when we go to a race, like we rent a house or an apartment or whatever, we have our own kitchen. The routine is the same. We even take the dog, anywhere in Europe or the US, the dog comes too. So you wake up in the morning at 3:30 and you got to kick the dog off your feet and, keeping that routine. Trust it, you spend 99% of your time at home or in that training environment, to go to a race and then sort of basically toss it all out the window and do something completely different. Now, when I look back, it doesn't make any sense. And really, it's been the biggest difference, I think, now for me. And even now when I go to races with the team and the chef, I can eat what I want. I can get up and stretch and do whatever else I want to do, and no one's going to question that. In this team, it's you're open-minded like that. So yeah, you just got to trust your process. It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, but you just got to believe in yourself. I mean, certainly that's everyone says it all the time. A race isn't the time to try new things. It's always the hardest thing, particularly in triathlon, to actually do that. You hear about this fast tire or this fast suit or this fast helmet or this better wetsuit or these new goggles or whatever. And you think, oh, great, I'll get them shoes. And then, so practice all that at home.
You're watching some inspirational things on Netflix. And I know you're a big fan of Floyd Mayweather. Mm-hmm. Is there any other sports person you follow? Any other sports team?
Huge fan of the boxing. I mean, I love Tom Brady. I love American football. I've really got into that. Tom Brady goes back to 2004 when I was at the Institute of Sport trying to qualify for the Olympics, and they won the Super Bowl that year. And that was sort of like the first time I'd ever watched NFL because they had cable there, and you're home, you literally, when you're at home in Tassie, I'd be studying or whatever. So you sort of didn't have all day to sort of lounge around so I could watch it. But then I found out his birthday is the same day as mine, the 3rd of August. So I'm, huge fan of Brady's. Kipchoge, obviously, what he's done for the sport of running, particularly marathon. I mean, he's made marathon a popular, mainstream sport. One guy. I mean, guy's been running that thing forever, and he's transcended it and made it exciting and cool to do. So he's definitely another one. I love Michael Jordan's story. Watching obviously The Last Dance. I think what I admire about the combat sports is, we get beaten in a race and we go home and sort of lick your wounds. Exactly. Have an ice bath and have a good feed, and it'll be okay in the morning. I mean, they go home and they get beaten. They've been beaten up. So just that mind, that work ethic, not leaving a stone unturned. And someone like him who's had all the greatest athletes come at him, and he's been able to beat them all. I love when the favorite wins. I love the underdog, don't get me wrong, and often I barrack for the underdog, yet I have to admire when the favorite wins, because everyone knows I mean, I used to love watching, I still do love watching him, Philippe Gilbert in the classics.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that if there's that climb, like 2-3K to go, like he's going to attack. You just know it's going to happen. And sure enough, he does it and he wins. And everyone knew, and you get slipstream and you can't stay on his wheel, you know. Those moments, I really think, wow, to be the man and come out on top, that's the moments I really admire in sport.
Fantastic. I have a few short questions because I think we spend a lot of time. I take a lot of your time, so thank you. The best day of your career?
Yeah, it's funny. Geraint Thomas asked me this recently. So the best day of my career would be when I qualified for Kona as a pro the first time. I'd just been at a camp with Froomey. It was in between the Tour and the Vuelta in 2017. And I had one race left. It was literally on the last day, you know, of the qualification. You had to be in the top 50 in the world. And that was our first year of working with Tim and obviously being around Froomey a lot. And I remember Froomey said to me, you know, just before I left to go to that race, and he was off to the Vuelta, he said, listen, mate, like, you only need to do what you're capable of doing. You know, you're more than capable of getting this done. Like, don't overthink it. And, I had an okay swim. I got in great position on the bike and then, you know, ran my best run ever. I mean, at that point, the best run I'd done was, I think, a 3:10. I think that day I ran a 3:01 or 3:02. And I came second. I got caught in the last sort of 10K by quite a fast runner, Clemente Alonso McKernan. And I sort of didn't even bother trying to go with him, but he ended up coming back towards me at the end. But, you know, I was more worried about not coming third than winning and qualifying for Kona. And so that feeling, you know, it had happened also in rowing, you know, the first selection race, which really set me up for those trials. I won by like 0.02 of a second. You know, it was like the tiniest margin. But if I'd been beaten, you know, the story could have been entirely different. We might not even be here. And same thing happened in cycling. The first year I did a time trial in France, and I had to win to go to Worlds, and I won by 0.07 of a second. And so, you know, the difference, the margin between that and that was the same in Ironman. And obviously from then on, things have been fantastic. But that feeling that day, particularly having done it on the run, you know, like something that everyone had sort of said, give me a hard time about, or said I can't run, he can't run, he'll never learn to run. It was like a great way to say, you know what, guys, I'm going to figure it out and you're going to have to worry about me in the future. So, that was really special.
If you had a time machine, would you go forward or backwards?
I'd just stay right where I am. I mean, everything that happens to me right now is just an absolute gift. And everything that has happened is a lesson. And I don't regret any of it. You know, I mean, there's no way you could script where I'm at now. And because of how that's all panned out is why I'm here, you know. And so, no, I wouldn't trade where I'm at for anything. I absolutely love every day, the challenge of every day, getting up and, you know, training hard and, you know, when we get a chance, going to race and, I'd stay right here. I'd put it on pause.
Very good, very good. If you had to write a book about your career, your memorandum, or your memories, what would be the title of the book?
It was all worth it.
All worth it. It was all worth it. Okay, I like that. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I have one last one. If you could spend one day with a person dead or alive, anyone, who would that be?
You know what? Right now, probably my parents. Haven't seen them, and I don't know. You know, they haven't met our grandson, their grandson, the kid. You know, a leader, I guess I've always admired, Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
I love his quote. You know, a winner is a dreamer that never gives up. And I'm not a prolific winner. I'll never be a prolific winner. I've lost way too many times to be ever known in history as a prolific winner, even if I was to win everything from now on. But I've never been afraid to dream, and I don't know what that final one will be, or thing, or event, or whatever, where I'll end up. But yeah, I loved his optimism. Obviously, what he did for the movement, and what he went through. You know, the long walk to freedom. Read that. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty fascinating to spend some time with him, Nelson Mandela. Yeah.
Cameron, hey, it has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
I'm really looking forward to see you smashing it with Ineos. I'm looking forward to see you. Yeah, obviously I'm German. I hope that it's going to be a good battle, and that the best man wins.
Exactly. That's all you want. That's all I say. I mean, that everyone asked about Kona, and I said, well, I want Kona to be on again when all the best guys can be at their best and can go there and give Kona the race it deserves. You know, and that's particularly last year. I felt, you know, obviously the 2 years before that, I mean, Jan, you know, had a bit of a rough day, and then obviously he didn't come the other year, and, you know, he had sort of very different guys with the way the tactics played out, obviously more against me than anything. Whereas I felt like last year was the Kona everyone deserved to see all the best guys at the front racing each other. And that was such an honor. I mean, if I'd come fifth, if that field from the year before, 2018, I'd come fifth in that field last year, I would have been really disappointed. Mm-hmm. But to come fifth to those guys, to Jan, Sebi, you know, Tim O'Donnell and Ben Hoffman, you know, all guys that have come second or won it in the past, you know, it was a huge honor. So, we'll get back to Kona when all the best guys can be there at their best, and I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I think I'll be racing my bike. It sounds like potentially a bit more than I expected. So that's really exciting for me. And, you know, and one of my biggest objectives now is making the Worlds team, you know, as there's no Ironmans to worry about. I would love to make the Australian team for the Road Worlds and see what I can do there. I mean, I've been on the team a couple of times, so it'd be great to, as I said, I can't afford to look back or look too far in front of me, because it's just an absolute dream come true doing what I'm doing. And I'm excited about getting up tomorrow and going out and doing it all again.
When are we going to see you next racing with Ineos? What's the next event?
Not sure. I mean, it'll be something in August. We've got to talk about that now, but it sounds like a lot of the one day. I mean, as I said, I would really like to do Worlds. I won't do the tour. There's no way I'll do the tour. Well, actually, I wouldn't say there's no way, but at the moment, I'm not down to do the tour. But the idea is that I'd try and qualify for Worlds, so do a bunch of one-day racing, which is also what I need. I can grind out a tour or a one-week stage race and survive in the bunch, but a one-day race, you can't hide. It's full gas from the gun, and that's sort of what I need to get myself going again. So I'd love to do Milan-San Remo. That's in early August. There's a lot of races in Italy. There's smaller races there, and who knows, maybe some of the early classics in September, and then the plan is for me to do the Vuelta after that. So after Worlds, so that's sort of the plan now, and then if Kona goes ahead as planned in February, then we'll obviously switch gears, so to speak, and get back in the pool and or make getting back in the pool and running a priority. Obviously, as you know, I'll be running and swimming the whole time when I'm at races, where I can, but certainly when I'm home a lot. So, moment one-day races is that, and then the Vuelta, and we'll see after that. But first things first, everyone's healthy and safe.
Maybe a 70.3 in Dubai. You have never been in Dubai, so it would be obviously fantastic to have you here and show you the city and show you around.
I'd love to do that. I mean, if that race goes ahead, it's an easy flight from here. And like I said to you in the message, I've never been out of the airport, and I've only heard incredible things. In fact, Frumi and I have spoken at length about. He actually bought some apartments there, and he says it's incredible place. So I'd love to get there for that event. It's quite a fast course too. So so we'll see if it goes. I think it's December generally, so around that time somewhere. I haven't looked to see it.
I'm not sure how it works out this year, because obviously all the events. So I'm not sure what they're planning.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll have the Worlds there. I know they've definitely cancelled the Worlds in New Zealand. So if things are in a better situation there, that could be an option. So a bit like the UFC, Fight Island.
Yes.
Half Ironman Island. Yeah.
Fantastic. Cameron, thanks again. Fantastic. We have next week, we have as well an absolutely outstanding person as a guest. She was the first Arab female to finish an Ironman, a successful businesswoman, a mother of 3, Dina Al-Tayeb, a real...
2017 was it, or 18? 18 she did Kona, maybe.
Yes.
18. Yeah.
And I think she went there more than once. It's really amazing how she went through all these events, and a really outstanding person. And we've seen her all her career. She's coming to Dubai, training in Dubai, obviously a very difficult situation, training in Saudi Arabia. But determination is absolutely unbelievable. So I'm really looking forward for next Wednesday to speak to her.
Yeah, awesome. That'd be
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cameron, thank you for your time. You're real inspiration, incredible story. And I'm really looking forward to see you racing. Thank you, everyone.
So am I. I'm looking forward to you guys seeing me race.
Regards to your wife and to your child.
Great.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a good evening. Bye.